Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Conscious Conversations interview series with PSYCH-K facilitators from all around the world. Today we're in Western Australia, joined by Deanne Hislop. Deanne, how are you?
Good. Happy? Warm?
Good. You got the welcome sign in the background, welcoming us in. Good. Awesome. So Deanne, we met probably about 4 or 5 years ago now, and I've been really grateful for our relationship ever since. So perhaps you could just start by sharing a little bit about yourself and where it is that you've come from, what you're doing, and how PSYCH-K came to you.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking about where I was at when I met you, what stage in my life I was at, and I think it's pretty safe to say that it was a bit of an unstructured mess. There was a lot going on. I had a couple of companies on the go, was doing some energy work, earth acupuncture. I was practicing as a building biologist, but still also studying. 2 young kids, big property, horses. There was a lot going on, and I think the reason that we clicked is I was kind of looking for something, I guess, to just help me put it all together. I think I was looking to network and grow the business, and then listening to what PSYCH-K was about. I was so interested because, coming from an area of doing a lot of energy work, it just really made sense, the whole, changing your beliefs and what's going on in the mind. So I guess that's kind of where I was. I was definitely not structured in what I was doing. I wasn't coping with what I was doing. I think there was just, the cup was overflowing, I guess you'd say. And I guess from there, 4 or 5 years, lots has changed. I'd say I've probably got more in my cup now than I did back then, but there's a totally different approach to how I deal with it and how I schedule my life and what I enjoy, how I prioritize my life, and how I feel about, I guess, not my workload, because it's not really my workload, but the amount that my life expects of me, or I expect of myself, to have everything in there that I want, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And look, your life is a perfect showcase for PSYCH-K, because I think without it, there would be a lot of overwhelm. You do so much, and you're putting so much energy into creating the desired life that you want and helping people at the same time. Let's really list off some of this. What have you actually got on your plate? What do you actually do, Deanne?
Okay, so I have a little company. I write children's books and calendars and resources for fly and fly out fly and fly out families. I am a full-time building biologist, and I mentor another building biologist coming up and run that business. I'm a geobiologist, so I work with doing earth acupuncture. I also homeschool my 2 children full-time, and I spend a lot of time researching and studying, running workshops. I'm a bit of an activist, and I spend a lot of time giving professional advice and advising on different boards for environmental health. I'm super, super passionate about living a healthy lifestyle, and also really walking your talk, I guess. And that means, cooking and, not taking shortcuts, and, it's not a quick stop at McDonald's for dinner. So there's a lot that goes into our lifestyle. And I guess for forever, everyone has always said to me, you've just got to prioritize. You just can't do it all. And, you've got to drop some things. And I never wanted to drop anything, and I would get so upset by it all, and I'd be like, what, you mean I should sell my horses, or I should stop feeding my kids organically and cooking, or send them to school and not homeschool them, or not have a career? Like, I was always so offended when people would say that to me, because I am so passionate about every one of those things I put in my life. And it's been a journey with PSYCH-K to be able to remove all of that overwhelm and anxiety around time restraints and personal time, and being able to change the way I look at things. So being able to, if I'm spending time with my horse, being able to switch off from work commitments or you know, having sort of my mind running all the time. So I guess it's sort of like physically I could do it all. Mentally I couldn't back then, whereas now mentally I can and physically I can, which means that it somehow it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. And I think something in our society, one of the things I've always heard is you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? That's just a belief. And that's something that I've worked with a lot of people about. It's like that they want to be a certain way, but then they're doing all of this at the same time. And it's like, well, why can't you have both?
Yeah.
It's just how we think it. What is your cake and how do you want to eat it? So being able to believe in yourself and not listening to the other people and what they're saying about how it's too much, you're doing too much, you've got to get back to yourself, whatever it is they're saying to try and keep you playing small. You don't listen to that. You just keep shining and you keep growing, and you like the things you do are amazing. I know you kind of, I think you toned down a little bit about how much energy you're actually putting out there into the community and being the activist side of you, you know, that would take a lot of energy. You're out there speaking at parliamentary hearings and being on radio. Like, what was that?
You're everyone's enemy. No one actually likes you when you're telling the truth.
Oh man, truth pisses everyone off. So to have something to keep in tune with yourself and keep loving yourself through all that, it's huge. But you know, you inspire me for sure. You're doing amazing things. I love it.
I think
watching you grow.
I think also with the, you know, not being able to have your cake and eat it too, and it's very much a conditioned belief we've got. But I think it brings a lot up for other people around you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, you know, the amount of times that people, and I understand that they are coming from a caring place, but the amount of times I've heard, you know, you've just got to stop, you're going to burn yourself out, or it might be okay for now, but, you know, later down the track, what's going to happen? Or do you really need to do all this? Or what are you trying to prove? Who are you trying to achieve this for? And I am trying to achieve it for myself. And I think, you know, you've got to also then be a little bit selective, like you're saying, about who you spend your time with, because people don't want to believe that they could be doing more, you know, as well. And that's not for everyone. It's a personal choice as to how much you want to do in your life. But it definitely, not only is it a conditioning, but it also brings things up for other people that are around you.
100% agree with that, and not taking that on board as you is very important if you want to keep doing what you're doing, for sure. Cool. So when did you actually do your first workshop, and how was that for you? It's all a blur now. Must have been 4 years.
Yeah. Let's say 4 years. I remember loving it. Like I just remember being blown away. And actually, if we go back to the beginning, I did the core belief balance with you.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the first sessions. And that was a game changer for me, so much so. And at that time, so, you know, I have this crazy lifestyle. My husband has just as crazy lifestyle. You know, he's gone at 5 a.m. and he's back late at night, and he would take so much on with his work that it was getting to a point that our life, you know, our home life situation, we were both so stressed. He would come home and, you know, the kids would eat with their mouth open, and it would be, you know, World War III happening, because, you know, everyone was just so uptight and at their limit, that I then got him to do the core belief balance with you. And that was insane. Like that, it completely changed our marriage. It changed the way both of us deal with work stress as well. It changed the relationship that we had with our kids as well. Probably not so much for me, but definitely for him. And so then I was like completely sold. So I went into the basic just ready to like take on the world and absorb as much as I could. And I was so excited about it. But when I look at having recently done the basic, resitting it with the kids, I feel like I got just as much, if not more, out of resitting it than I did the first time round. But in saying that, I think, you know, like I think we forget how far we've come, and I'm sure that I've forgotten a lot of the changes and things that happened after I did the first workshop. because I know, like, it was just so massive for me. It was such coming from a place of, you know, always just using intention or willpower or, you know, projecting energy and stuff like that, to then do something that can change how you feel about yourself, how you see things, your stress level so quickly. And having worked so long with people with energy, I was like, okay, that's to the side now. Now I just want to change your belief system, because you can do this. I don't need to do this for you, or I don't need to channel it or be the conduit or whatever. You can do this yourself. And it was really empowering that there was something that existed for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it, and it's great. As a facilitator and someone who's pursuing this professionally, you know, it takes a lot of the stress off of me and the pressure off me to perform, because as long as I'm being a good mirror and I'm actively listening and being a participant in it, it's, you know, it really does take the pressure off us, because it's just providing the space for the individual to do it for themselves. So I love that aspect of PSYCH-K, empowering the individual and not creating a codependent relationship. That's happened quite easily with other things.
The codependency thing, I think, is a big thing with a lot of other modalities, because, you know, you can feel a little bit disempowered, especially, you know, if you go and see a healer or something like this, and, you know, your expectation on them is huge, and you walk away thinking that it was them that did the job, and that, you know, you need to go and see them each time you need to progress to the next level. Whereas, you know, the change in myself in the last 4 years has just been, you know, insane. And I've done that. You know, I haven't gone out and outsourced it and done this. I've just quietly kind of chipped away at all these different beliefs that come up every now and then. God knows how much I would have spent if I was going to see someone all the time for that advice. So it has, both, I guess, financially, the basics been amazing. But yeah, I mean, I guess the proof's in the pudding, really.
Yeah, totally. I love that you mentioned that you brought your kids down. That was the Nan-Up workshop that I sponsored that workshop, and it was amazing having your kids there. It was such a great energy to have in the workshop. I mean, they're great kids as it is, but having children there learning it is just like an I mean, they were loving it. They picked it up so well. So how was it for them? How did you see it as a mother being in that space with them? Because I'd love to see more families doing this together. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think the accountability side, like, it was so funny after we came back, like, and not on their behalf, but on our behalf. So, you know, we'd say something and the kids would go, "Oh, Dad, you need to balance for that. Oh, you should really balance for that." And it's so funny because, and then we have this game of like, so part of their schooling, they've, you know, things that come up, or we actually put PSYCH-K into their curriculum. So they get 30 minutes just once a week to write down a couple of things. And then being the controlling mum that I am, you know, so then they tell me what they've balanced for, and I just check it. I just muscle test it, you know, have we done those? Awesome, you know. And it's like, it's crazy. Like, and you think at that age, the amount of things that you could balance for, if you start balancing, because they're 10 and 11, you start balancing then, like, where are you going to be in 10 years time? You know, like, it's just insane. And I think it really, I think probably one of the biggest takeaways for them is being able to see in other people, like, oh, that's just a belief. Like, they really clicked onto that, where they would go, someone would go, "Oh no, you can't do this," or "Oh, you know," or they might say like, "Oh, maths is really hard," or something, and they'll be looking at me like, "It's in the head. That's just in the head." Like, you should balance for that. Like, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's beautiful. And I think, you know, they're about to start heading through puberty and, you know, everything that comes with going through your teenage years and that. And I think to have this is just, it's a gift. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah, awesome. I got so pumped when you said I'm bringing the kids. I got really, really excited about that. And we've discussed this. You know, I'd love to go into schools and do some talks in schools and stuff like that. And just haven't quite found the in yet. But it's fantastic, and how easily they pick it up. You know, I think Shannon was telling me how to do things. Like they just soaked it up. It's awesome. It's so good, so good.
I'm just choking.
You go down on me now.
And I say I'm choking on a hot chocolate because in the last basic, I gave up coffee, and I've like I lived off coffee. Coffee was like my best friend, and now I look at it and I'm like,
Yeah.
nothing. There's nothing there. I don't want it. I actually feel sick at the thought of it now.
Did you want to stop drinking coffee, or did you just think, I'm just going to try this? Because like part of me wants to, and part of me still really loves coffee. And I think, you know.
So I'm a big fan of Dr. Libby Weaver, and she's written books like Rushing Women's Syndrome, and she does a lot on like the stress levels and the amount of adrenaline that we produce and stuff like that. And for me, like I'm running from like here to here to here to here all day long. I don't need coffee. Like I'm already on high alert. And, you know, it wasn't that it was impacting my sleep or anything like that. But I'd made some PSYCH-K balances around making sure that that I did balances that would help for energy levels and long-term health and, you know, all sorts of things like that. And so when I balanced for, you know, I no longer drink coffee, and wasn't in those words, but and then different things around the smell of coffee, and because often, you know, if I was running late, I'd just use coffee as a food because it'd be full of milk or whatever I'd chucked in there. And so I did a heap of them, and then I kind of like felt sad and missed it. And so then I tried to change it back and I wasn't able to, which was really interesting because that's something that hasn't ever happened to me before. So I was like, okay, now I love coffee and I balanced for it. And it was like, no, you don't. Then I was like, it's safe and appropriate to balance this. And it was like, no, it's not. And I was like, how is it not? But then I remembered I'd put all these other balances in place beforehand about, you know, only being able to do things in line with, you know, this. And I know, you know, PSYCH-K is there for our highest intention, but I'd really made it concrete about, you know, for my body type, for my metabolism, for, you know, very specific to me. And then I was just like, oh my God. And now I go to the shops, like run into my sister at the shops, and she's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know, because I don't drink coffee anymore. Like, and I don't really shop. Whereas normally, you know, you have coffee with people. That's what you do. And now I'm like, well, I'll sit there and watch you have a coffee. It's weird, but it's very powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Soy chai lattes all the way.
Huh? Oh no. Well, I've done milk as well. And then I came home and I, because I'm a GAPS practitioner as well. So we do a lot of fermented dairies, not conventional dairy. And I tried one. I was like, oh my God, that's disgusting. And I was going, the kids, try that. Is it off? Is it off? And I'm getting them to try it. And they're like, it's fine. And so somehow mixed up with the coffee was milk. And now I can't do any milk either. But I figure, you know, I'd set the intention for my, you know, highest health purpose. So I've just got to roll with it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you're glowing, and you've had some great health wins this year as well. So that's cool. That's cool. So do you work professionally with people? I know you're building biologists, so maybe you could just explain a little bit about what that is, because that's amazing work and people need to hear about that. So please share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I specialise in environmental toxins in the built environment. So most of my work is probably practitioner referral, where someone's been sick or has some sort of chronic health disease, and I will go into their house and look at what they're being exposed to on a day-to-day basis that could be impacting their health. So it's a little bit sometimes like finding a needle in a haystack, but a lot of the time it's quite obvious. So I spend a lot of time looking and analysing mould, like what we call like electropollution, so EMFs, which is hugely overlooked in someone's health story. heavy metals, chemicals, pesticides, allergens, those sorts of things, drinking water, anything that's the body's seeing as a threat. So I work very closely with that. And one of the things that I see so much is that there are people, you know, who have fallen victim to being in the wrong space at the wrong time, in that they don't intend to stay unhealthy. And then there's another subset of people who seem to say they don't want to be in that space, but don't do anything to get out of that space, or do a lot of surface things to get out of that space to kind of make themselves feel as though they've ticked the boxes, they've been to that doctor, they've done this, but they haven't followed through with the steps. And that's, I guess, the area that I really want to take PSYCH-K to, especially, you know, as you know, but probably everyone else know, I'm very, very passionate about removing Wi-Fi from schools, which is why I homeschool, and reducing the radiation exposure in our children. That's probably my most studied area. And so I'm very intrigued as to what is it with a parent as to why they switched off to the science, or they can't, they're so overwhelmed by the process of not having Wi-Fi, or, you know, when for me, I'm like, it's such an easy process. I can come in and we can do it in your house in, you know, a couple of hours. And so what's stopping people? And again, you know, they're the areas that I want to apply PSYCH-K. I haven't done that professionally, and I'm looking at how I want to put that out there for sure. But as far as facilitating, so far I'm only facilitating probably twice a week with people, a lot of family, a lot of friends, a lot of parents and mums who are in a similar situation with me, trying to deal with overwhelm. Yeah,
awesome. So you are now looking at creating some sort of thing to help, because I think like technology has created so much convenience for us, and perhaps that's something that, you know, people struggle to let go of. Oh, what about all my comforts and my conveniences? Now I'm going to have to get up and go to a different room to use the internet or something like that.
Yeah. And it's trying to get that information across to people. So I run a lot of workshops, which are a safe tech workshop, which show people how to use all of their tech that they're using existingly, but without it emitting any radiation to them or impacting their health. But it's that, you know, it's a fairly simple workshop, but people go in there with that just like, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's like, you know, your grandma trying to use the Foxtel remote, you know, it's not working, that kind of situation. That I think we have such a fear around changing, like, you know, even if I say, can I just turn off your Wi-Fi router while I check something? The look of fear and panic because someone's like, oh my God, I'm never going to turn it back on again. And I don't know how to do this. And I'm going to need to call my husband and he's going to accuse me of sabotaging the internet. And like, there's just like, it's crazy. Like, it's just, you know, their doctor will say to them, or I'll have clients that, you know, they'll fly over east or they'll fly over to the States, and they'll see more progressive environmental health practitioners, and they'll say to them, you need to address the EMF, and they go, okay, and then they just pretend they haven't heard it, because I don't know, I can't really explain it, but there's so much fear around it. So yeah, I don't know. But so, you know, any advice on how other facilitators have approached things like that? I'm definitely all ears. But yeah, it's an area that I see that I can probably give the most to, because I can give both the stress and the reassurance and the education all at the same time.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Really, really great work. I love what you do, Dee. It's awesome. Thank you so much. So do you have any, I know we sort of spoke a little bit about the coffee and things about your kids, but do you have any actual success stories specifically that you could share? I know we sort of but we love stories.
Awesome one. And so when we did the basics, so hubby and me and the kids went down to resit, and the kids were doing it for the first time, and Paul, for some random reason, so my husband had about 3 years ago just randomly started breaking out in hives. Like when he'd go in cold water. So he'd go in the beach and he'd just come out in hives. He'd go in the pool and he'd come out in hives. And we looked at, everything, different immunotherapies, and we just couldn't understand why it was happening. Or what was happening. And the only way around it, which I hated the idea of, was him taking an antihistamine beforehand before it'd go in the water. We live right by the beach and we love the water. And it's hot, as you know, in Perth. So we spend heaps of time in the water. And so, it was really sort of impacting his life. He also does the surf lifesaving and has the kids down at Nippers and stuff. So he's in front of people who's embarrassed by it. And so we're talking to Rosie about it at the PSYCH-K, and she said, well, let's check to see, what's going on with it, and to see if it's an apparent reaction to something or a stress. So long story short, what we ended up balancing for was around his perception of cold. And what came up was a really strong stress response that he had when he thought of cold. So he's from London, and he once got stuck outside and he almost froze to death. And it was actually really scary for him. And he didn't have his keys and he couldn't get inside, and he was trying to call a taxi, and he was so cold that he couldn't actually speak. So he couldn't say anything to the person on the other end of the phone, which is pretty scary, right?
Yeah.
Hey?
And how old was he?
Oh, he would have been, it was after a night out. So he would have been late teens, I guess.
Yep.
Anyway, so we went back to that, and he hadn't even thought about it. He'd never connected the two. And so we did a stress response around that, and then his perception of cold. So he did have a true reaction to cold. So then what we did was we went back and said, and changed his perception of what cold is. So cold, we then put below -5 degrees. And then it was okay to have a reaction, but not because he did have a true reaction to it. So it wasn't just stress, but it was that his body was starting to perceive things that were cold, cool as cold. So we went back and changed that. And then we had the big moment of him going to the beach and actually getting in the water and swimming with the kids and coming out without any hives. And we were both like, holy shit, this is nuts. This is next level. This is, mind blowing. And, we'd heard Rosie's story about the bee sting, and part of your mind just kind of goes, yeah, but is that just you? Because we all have the skeptic that creeps in. And it was just, crazy. Yeah.
Cool.
And then he did start to get a little bit come back in a couple of times afterwards. And then we were kind of doing some work around that. And we kind of figured there was a little bit of him going, shit, if this is this powerful, I have no excuses left. I can change my entire reality. And I think that scared him a little bit. And so, I feel like that came back a little bit, not what it was, but a little bit, just to create that bit of doubt.
Yeah.
That's what we're working on now.
Yeah, which is huge. I mean, I know I certainly would come up against that of that extreme responsibility. There's still areas in my life where I'm scared to take responsibility of, or whatever it is. I don't know. But yeah, that's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. And one of the balances that I did before was around, because you can do all these balances, and, I have all the time in the world, and I do this, and I cook healthy meals, and I do this, and I find the time to exercise, and I find all these things. And then you're like, holy shit, I've done all this. Now I actually have to do it. And that's stressful in itself. So I think one of the ones that was great for me to do was transforming stress around the changes or the expectations I had of myself from the balances that I did. So
yeah.
Because if you go, okay, I'm going to balance, and, I'm going to get the job that I get, talking about what job you want and how you're going to feel and what life's going to look like and all this stuff. And then you go, yep, my mind's all good to go for it. And then you go, holy fuck, that's a lot of work. So, yeah.
Yeah. Doing stress transformations or transforming perception of stress around taking action steps.
Yeah.
Cool. Or even balancing just around the action steps. Yeah, you're giving me a lot to think about here, Deanne.
It's always more work to be done.
So much. I remember when I first did the advanced, I was like, yeah, we can save the world. We're gonna save the world. And then it was like, oh man, still working on myself here. I've only got time for me. But that's cool because that's what it has to be, you know. We want to change the world, we've got to change ourselves. So
yeah, it is. It's really, really cool. And I think, you know, when I look at the things that that I spent the most time on, they're probably things that I haven't spent the most time on the action steps. But I am, yeah, I'm probably, it's not that I'm not ambitious with my balancing now, but there's a little bit more reality in that I'm probably more specific, as opposed to like, you know, I am going to, you know, be a beacon of light for the entire world and I'm going to do this. They're a little bit more closer to home, and, you know, and I still believe that, but a bit more, you know, I'm going to light up those around me, and, the, you know, like a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's great to still hold that big vision, but then there's so many little steps and little cogs to that wheel that need to fall in alignment before that whole thing can sort of turn together. Yeah, awesome.
But it's fun, and we learn our limits. Well, not limits, but, you know, we know, you know in yourself when you've got to look at what you're doing and go, okay, maybe I need to tweak this, or maybe, and that's all part of the, you know, the whole learning experience, isn't it? That we better learn ourselves, we better learn, you know, what's right for us at that moment.
Yeah. I think also one of the things you shared with me at that workshop was, you know, drawing on source energy to complete our tasks. You know, I've been really implementing that this year, and especially with all of these interviews that I do, or the sessions that I do, if ever I'm going to go meet somebody, you know, I'm always being really crystal clear that the energy I'm using for this is from source, and that I radiate that energy, and I'm broadcasting that. And it's like, I've noticed a big difference when I'm consistently doing that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I've definitely used PSYCH-K with other modalities as well. So, you know, in that same, you know, working with chakra alignment and how energy flows through the meridians of my body and things like that, and being able to use PSYCH-K with that as well, which is really cool as well. Yeah, it's kind of, you know, I think you come out of the advance and you're like, oh my God, like this is literally endless possibilities, like endless possibilities on how I can use this. And yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's crazy where you then decide yourself where you're going to use that energy. Because that's so different to where someone else is going to place that energy or see purpose for using PSYCH-K, which is cool. But yeah, it's like, how do we decide what's the priority for us to use that energy? And that's all based on, I believe, you know, our higher purpose and what we truly don't understand about ourselves yet. It's kind of cool to sort of sit back and watch ourselves and go, oh my God, like I spent, you know, 3 weeks just working on, you know, how I want to talk with people, because the way that I want to talk to people is so important to me, versus someone who's, you know, got a completely different view about, I don't know, that, you know, they might be working on finances or whatever. It's, I don't know, it's crazy where it goes.
Yeah. Really cool. Awesome. So what's 2020 got on in store for you? You've had a great start to the year.
Yeah, I'm super pumped to do the health and wellness. I haven't done that yet, and I really feel like I'm going to take so much away from that, and I'm hoping to take some time a little bit before and after, probably like 24 hours would be probably just the flight back and forth, but to really immerse myself in that. And I really want to take away from that and spend a lot of time in the space working about how I can then implement some of that with my clients. definitely a lot of workshops this year. That's a big focus for me. Making sure that all of us as a family keep on top of balancing as well, which we've kind of done. I've got quite a lot of travel this year, bring on some more staff this year, and I think finding in the advance, I spent a lot of time around attracting the right people for the business. And that's definitely happened and paid off, and I'm so grateful for that. So more about that, more about growing things and just enjoying life, I guess, and I guess, you know, staying curious.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to stay curious.
And have some fun along the way. I mean, you know, I think I look back at I think it would have been about 4 years ago, and Paul and I were going through I think we were doing our best, and I said, let's just break it down and look what we actually spend on everything, because we really don't track our money very well. And we went through and we'd had like all these categories done out, and one of them was like socializing, and we like spent like, it was something, you know, we were on fairly good money. I think we spent like $40 in the month on like actually going out and doing stuff, and we were like, oh my god, what happened to us? Like, we met in a bit of a party scene in London, like you know, there was a lot of socializing, and then all of a sudden stuff got really real, and we were like, you know, just full steam ahead, and there was just nothing outside of, you know, everything that we were trying to achieve. And I think that was a big eye opener to us, because we're like, you know, we're spending, you know, God knows how much on organic foods and this and that. We're not actually spending anything on having fun. And then, so we're trying now to kind of, well, we have been for a while, making sure that we do have fun. Yeah, even if it is kind of infrequent.
It's important though. We're going to have that balance and still be able to play and have that, satisfy that child within.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been really fun chatting to you, Deanne. I really appreciate you coming on here. As I said, you know, you were kind of the first person, I think you might have even been the first person I really had a proper session with. So it's, you've been a catalyst in my growth, and I'm really grateful to be in your life and you to be in mine. So thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. Really I love it. I don't know. I think we just need to keep getting it into everyone's mind that, you know, it is such a game changer, especially for the little ones. Like, I would just love to see it, you know, in schools, in workplaces, everywhere, because it is such a game changer.
Yeah, agreed. So something I like to do, I wouldn't have prepared you for this. I'm going to throw you a little curveball. One piece of advice or a takeaway for anybody listening, something you apply in your life that really helps you. Just a takeaway for anybody watching that might be able to benefit from that. Do you have anything to share?
Yeah, so you get out what you put in, and it is silly if you think you're going to get out more than you put in, I think. But putting in doesn't need to be hard. So for me, everything is about balance, whether we're looking at an insulin level that goes up and down, whether we're looking at our body's energy levels, you know, from yin and yang, the whole thing. And I think everything's, you know, comes down to being equal. So the more that you put into something, the more energy that you're going to get out, and the type of energy that you put in is the type of energy that you're going to get out. So I guess that's the activist in me, and the doer in me that, you know, just encourages, I guess, people to be active in pursuing what they want in life.
Yeah, if I can sort of add to that, something that's been really prominent for me recently is taking, like, I've always sort of had a saying, strike while the iron's hot, but I never really understood that, like, the energy that you bring to it when you have that excitement, when you then release that into the world, like when that inspiration hits and acting on it right then, it has a whole new energy that it brings out into the world, rather than even waiting an hour or two when that, I don't know, it's just something I've been playing with, and I feel so much better about myself, feel better about what happens, and then how it comes back is just like, everything happens so much better when we do that. And that kind of aligns with what you're saying, you know, that especially when you said the energy that we put into it.
Yeah.
Because I always used to get a lot of creative inspiration, but then I wouldn't act on it for a few days and then nothing happens. And I think it's because I'm not utilizing that inspiration and that energy that's coming through the inspiration to then release it into the world. So,
and I like, as you're saying that, so because I spend so much time prioritizing what to do, like what's got to happen now, and it's very hard for me to structure things because I've kind of had to take that approach of, okay, if I feel like riding my horse right now and I've got the time to ride my horse right now, I'm going to do it right now. And if I come back and all of a sudden my head's abuzz with what I'm going to write for this workshop, then I'm going to do that right now. Even though I might have a report waiting or I haven't called someone back, it's not the right time. And it's taken a long time to be okay with that. And things still function and things still get done. And I'm very productive. But I've always struggled against going, okay, well, from 5 a.m. to 5:30, I'm going to do this, and from 5:30 to this, because that's not where I'm at mentally. And so being okay to kind of go, my day is going to go organically where it goes. It's still going to be productive and everything's still going to get done, but I've got to trust in myself that what I choose to do in that moment is the right thing for me to do in that moment and not tell myself otherwise. So I love that saying. I think that's really cool.
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
Wonderful, Deanne. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to watch you this year and see what you're going to do and keep building in the world. It's wonderful. It's really cool to watch.
Watch this space.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching today's episode. It's been a pleasure. Deanne, have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
See you guys. Oops, I don't want to end the meeting. We'll just stop recording.